Hello, my name is Van Smith, managing partner here at Smith Strong, and today I'm joined by a client and an encourager of the firm, Miss Christine Geddes. Christine, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Nice to see you.
And today you've asked to come and speak about aging with dignity, simplifying elder care issues here in Virginia. And it's something that you've had a lot of experience with personally, but both in your family, and you'd like to share tips, strategies of simplifying elder care. So thank you so much for being here today.
I appreciate that so much. I'd like to address elder care on a couple of levels. I have experience with it personally, but professionally, just for background for your audience, I have a history of having adjudicated Medicare and Medicaid, working for the Social Security Administration. Medicaid is adjudicated by the state, but we still make referrals for those things. So I worked there when Medicare D was rolled out, and most of our office, I worked in Roanoke, had been sent to Hurricane Katrina. And I had the lovely task of teaching Medicare D to the world. That's dramatic, but the point I'm saying is that it taught me a lot, and it was helpful as I had to evaluate what I needed. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is because I see so much difficulty in people understanding programmatic things. And Strong and Smith has been able to interpret those things consistently for their clients. And I've been a benefactor of that in my personal life.
Well, I'm so grateful to hear that. So, on behalf of the 30 people here at Smith Strong, I really am grateful that you trusted us to help guide you through your own estate planning and elder law concerns for your own family. And we don't take that privilege lightly. We know you have choice, and we're grateful you chose us. How would you help families and guide them in simplifying their own elder care concerns of their family? Walk us through some scenarios that you're thinking about and solutions you think would simplify their elder care issues.
So the first thing I want to address is that we are in an economic situation where many elderly people are in positions to need to live with their children or accessible dwelling units in the back of the house. And sometimes if they share their assets and want to help with that, they don't even know what vehicle to use to be sure that they're still going to be able to live there or something if their child wants to sell the house. Similarly, if someone is in the hospital and there are rules in order to get Medicaid or to be able to stay longer than your insurance will allow, if you don't understand the rules about being able to return to your own home or how to have a family trust protect your assets, it becomes chaotic. And it's very important for not only the individual to set that up, but to have the means to be able to communicate to your family and know what triggers a specific statute. Am I saying that correctly?
No, you're saying it perfectly. So let me kind of weigh in and parse through what you've said very well. And that is because we're all living longer and because housing costs are going up, we are now facing situations with elder care issues and estate planning issues where there are multiple generations under one roof. And that carries unique legal implications for when things work out great and when they don't.
Right.
That it would be better to think through in advance how to title the property when everyone is pooling their resources together and investing. Is it titled right to ensure that the elderly person can rely on it through the rest of their life, no matter how the seasons or the opinions change of the younger family members who may also be or may exclusively be on the title. And so it's very important that we get those legal constraints right before the chaos or the crisis hits, right?
Right. And one of the things, as a parent, my kids are in their late 20s, early 30s. They've just now hitting the stride with their careers. And, we teach our kids to launch. If we've done the right thing, they can do it. And then we go, wow, I've got an illness. Something else happened. And you look at everything that you helped to foster, and you don't want to be a weight on that, and yet on the other hand, in this economic environment, more and more, 30-somethingers are still needing some form of financial assistance from their families to buy a first home because they've got a lot of student loan debt, whatever the case might be. And what I was always concerned about was I may have faith that my children will act as I choose. But the pressure to do that, if a significant other or a spouse or their own relationship could be weighted down because of that, how do you word that so no one feels like you're leaving someone out? And therefore, having a relationship with a legal firm such as Strong & Smith who can help you through that, that's extremely good, positive.
One of the big things we do with this new development of aging with dignity, elder law issues, is explaining to the person that maybe has a lot riding on the outcome. If I'm going to pour my resources into this home to expand this home, my resources are going into that, but maybe it's their home and they're on the title. How do I ensure if I'm investing a significant amount to expand this house so I can move into it, my resources that went into that are protected? So I have a right to be there that can't be divested when the spouse or a competing family interest invades that harmony.
Absolutely.
And there are legal solutions to that, both with the title and the deed before the investment occurs, and also estate planning. Were there things that you'd like people to think about or know as they're processing their own situation and thinking about elder law issues and aging in place and multi-generational family housing and how they think through that you want to share with folks to simplify that thought process?
At its most basic level, life happens. It's not always predictable, and you can't always cross every I and dot every T. And so what you most need is not necessarily 5 caseworkers from 2 different hospitals and another agency, and then, a home care agency where you get lost in the shuffle. And you've signed 1 million HIPAAs for this, for that, for the next thing. And where's the strength in knowing which one who is going to invoke? And so by having your estate planning thought about, again, even in youth, what would I do if? These are my basic wishes. Those are building blocks. And if you just articulate those things, I frankly now look at my relationship with Strong Smith as something that evolves. It's fluid. And I may have written a document and that may be my intent, and I'm glad that it's solid and I can count on it. But what I'm also extremely blessed by is to know that if something changes and I'm not comfortable with that, or I have a new need, I now have a relationship with people that know me and have, as you referred to more than once, legal strength. Because when I dealt with other companies, they may have had legal strength as well, but maybe not quite as much, or there's a difference between capability and capacity. Capability means we can do it. Capacity means we have the energy to do it. And so in order to have that energy, you need a certain amount of staff to meet your need. And frankly, if people really want to address aging across the lifespan and simplify it, they need to learn to think about it just like they do every other process in the aging cycle.
So let me break that down a little bit, because you've said so many good things there, and we're so benefited by the wisdom that you're expressing here. One of the things I think we're kind of getting at is, it used to be that we would view estate planning as a static, one-time document. When I die, give it to these 2 or 3 people, and see you later, Mr. and Mrs. Attorney. And now what we're seeing is, it's an organic document. And because we are living longer in our financial lives and multi-generational housing and other needs that elder law issues develop, these are no longer static, stay-in-place documents that we do once and forget about in a drawer, but they have to be organic and grow and change to meet the new legal needs as we move resources of aging person into the home of young couple that I'm related to one of the parties of, and how we develop the deeds and the titles of a multi-generational house, how we develop the estate plan to accommodate the young family and their needs and rights, but also the rights of the life estate of the person who's living there for the rest of their life and pouring their last retirement dollars into that home to see that through. And so, I just think, as I'm listening to you, that you're really hitting on something that's new and important. And that is aging with dignity, creating an understanding that you are entering a new legal framework with each new phase of life. Yes. And don't think, because I did my will 27 years ago, now I'm moving in with my eldest daughter or my eldest son or some situation, that we shouldn't also bring a legal conversation into the mix to make sure new issues don't need to be addressed. Right. In that new phase of life. I think that's very important.
If I could address one more issue.
Please, yes.
It's a bit more difficult.
Okay, please.
But yeah, please. I think it's necessary. Yeah. One of the ministries that I do is I visit seniors who may be widowed, they may be in nursing homes, and I do the same for disabled people. I go into hospitals and visit people through my church, or people that need help, because I'm used to those settings. That being said, I cannot unfortunately tell you how many times in an elevator, or I've overheard it in a hallway, how somebody's dissatisfied with the ill person or dad because he didn't do this and didn't do that. And in a time when the elder or younger person, but elder person needs help, who may have more difficulty articulating it, all of a sudden, once again, emotions are involved. And then finances are involved. People are worried about inheritances. There may need grace and forgiveness to come into the picture to make these things happen. And it is so much better to know an individual when they are their most articulate, as opposed to, unfortunately, we all age, dementia, things like that come up. But if you know what you want and you have a relationship with someone across time, as we've talked about, it's my thought that as attorneys, as partners, you would best recognize when there was a shift that seemed out of the ordinary. And therefore, you could draw upon what was said in earlier times and compare that to the status. And you can best help the family to deal with things if the older person cannot. And my hope would be that in sharing the documents, because you've taken gray area out of it, it then allows people to kind of cool their jets and look at the situation a little different. What would you say about something like that?
Yeah, I think we're all frail and at varying degrees broken people, and we're all in most instances trying to do our best. Now, some people are acting in bad faith or ill will, but in most cases we're trying to do our best. But I think what you're driving at is, one, have a long-term legal advisor and see your relationship with your estate planning attorney and your elder law attorney as a lifelong relationship, because your needs will change and you need to make sure the legal ramifications around your estate plan documents and your property and your assets changes with it and is protected. But then also there's this whole other side of it of how do these documents and these legal outcomes communicate and integrate with the family, with all of its hurts and history and drama and incidents and miscommunications and hurt feelings and unrepaired issues and incidents, and all of that's baked into this one final thing called an estate plan and elder law issues. And that's a lot to put on that load.
Sure.
But I think what you're driving at is an honest, frank, dynamic, and ongoing conversation is the best way to get to the most reasonable, best outcome for your family, and hopefully to a better place with your family.
Right. And see, we started this talking about simplifying things.
Right.
And then I make a comment like that, and it seems like I think all these people are filled with malevolence. And it isn't. Sometimes people are just in shock. And they don't really know what they're going to do. And you might have somebody that's saying something off the cuff that has nothing to do with what's already in place. Right. And so, hurt comes when you're dealing with grief. And I've learned, frankly, that there is nothing under the sun that Heavenly Father can't heal. So we shouldn't worry about being afraid or that our families are going to disintegrate into chaos. But what we can do is we can make it easier for them to cope with what happens so that they can feel as blessed as you were when you did those things in the first place.
Yes, well said. I think it's important to know we're in new territory. When my grandfathers died, they both died in their early 70s, within just mere years of retirement. And now we're all living longer, and it's opening our families and our experiences to this whole other chapter known as elder law, which is basically those post-retirement years where we're still there flowing and moving with our families, and it's dynamic and it's new, and there isn't a lot of family history to it. There wasn't a lot of history of great-grandma moving into the 30s and 40s and 50-something child's house and living 10, 12, 15 years. There isn't a lot of that because it didn't exist. We're all living longer for the first time ever. And so we're developing. In some ways, this will be positive. Right. I mean, I think there's room for optimism here. We're all living longer, so we get to experience each other longer. But we also have homes now that have to accommodate older folks and younger folks in the same house. Right. And that brings on legal challenges and conversations that are hard.
Absolutely. And honestly, the one thing that I have learned that I think would be prudent for everyone to think of, and I don't know if the legal nomenclature could somehow interpret it, but I'm sure you'll understand what I'm saying. If I need something, I've learned, don't make a cook a plumber. And so you give somebody a task.
I like that expression.
And you say, I would like it. It would help me out if you could do this task. And, the whole other big thing that you're dealing with, they will learn to assimilate the information. Yeah. But we're not, because it's over time, we can make those evolutions and we can see them change. And that's where I think it is very positive.
Well, I'm, again, benefited by you being here, Miss Christine Geddes. It's a pleasure and it's a privilege. And I know there are people out there that will listen to this and it will strike a chord. And maybe they will take the next step of having a conversation where they really didn't think, can an attorney add value there? But what you're advocating is, yes, they can. And don't be fearful of having a frank conversation with an attorney.
Absolutely. One of the problems with all of the programmatic things that we have is that case managers that might help you in a hospital or otherwise are bound by their institutions of medicine to act in certain ways. That doesn't mean it isn't in your best interest, but frankly, we have a very large aging population.
Yes.
And post-COVID, our medical students and other things are growing and learning the ropes in different ways, as we talked about evolving. And having an attorney involved can save you from having to have conversations that are difficult.
Yes.
Or at least minimize some of them.
Right.
And I think that that's been incredibly beneficial in my own life. And I'm absolutely certain it would be in other people's.
And I would encourage those watching. I think most people really don't understand when we say elder law. But essentially, it's the issues and family situations and the legal implications of those that develop as we age. And there are ways to do this without complicating your life. There are ways to do this that simplify outcomes, regardless of how circumstances change. We appreciate that we're in new territory as a society and as individuals. So I encourage you to have a frank, honest conversation with an attorney, confidential, discreet, laying out options without judgment, and with just simple candor, laying out options that you sleep on, you think about, you mull over, and then you return to the table by phone, Zoom, or in person to talk about more.
That was an immense gift that Strong and Smith gave me. We worked on my husband's will prior to a surgery he had, and then I was getting our affairs in order from there. And I remember seeing the trust document, and I was like, okay, I need to pause on this. I am assimilating that we're dealing with a surgery, that my husband's older than I am, that because of my disability, I age quicker. I said, but I need to exhale. And so, it was amazing to me. I mean, it just blew me away that your staff was like, that's okay. You can look it over. We can get back together. Because I was used to attorneys saying, here's your document, go ahead and sign it. And so the ability to absorb all the information just took a little longer.
I was so proud of my team that without them getting direction from us, just instinctively do that. They give people the space and they feel empowered to do that. Not just for you, but for each person that walks in. I'm thrilled by that. I want Smith Strong to be a place that all feel welcomed, served, and with the space and the time needed to make informed, educated decisions for their family, however long it takes. And I'm so pleased to hear that the firm has delivered that.
Oh, absolutely. So am I.
And that it came together so powerfully for you. And I'm so appreciative that not only that occurred, but you took time to come back and say, I want to share this with others. Thank you. Appreciate your time today.